Good day, everyone. Today we will be discussing Thomas Hobbes, an English philosopher, scientist, and historian, who is best known for his political philosophy. Thomas Hobbes was born on April 5, 1588, in his hometown Malmesbury, which is located in Wiltshire, England. His father, also called Thomas Hobbes, was a vicar at their local parish church in Wiltshire. At the age of 4, his father abandoned them after being disgraced for engaging in a fight with another clergyman in front of his own church. As a result, Thomas and his siblings were left to the care of their uncle. Aside from their identical names, the father and son had almost nothing in common because Thomas Hobbes, the philosopher, is by nature a deeply peaceful and cautious man. He hated violence of any kind. This disposition, coincidentally, may have started due to his father. Moving on to his early education, Thomas Hobbes studied at a school at Westport at the age of 4, then later on to a private school, and finally at Magdalen Hall in the University of Oxford at 15 years old to take a traditional arts degree. After graduating on February 1608, he worked for the wealthy and aristocratic Cavendish family. Initially, he served as a tutor to the second Earl of Devonshire, William Cavendish. Over the course of his adult life, Thomas Hobbes worked all kinds of jobs for the different branches of the family. Some of these include translator, traveling companion, account keeper, political advisor, and scientific collaborator. With all these jobs, it would seem like an excessive workload for a well-known philosopher. How would he have had the time to write all of his published works that we know today? Actually, his most prominent works in political philosophy were only written after a major horrific event, which greatly influenced his thinking. As a matter of fact, Thomas Hobbes was already 64 years old when the event began, meaning he wrote his most impactful works in old age. What is the event, you ask? It is the English Civil War, which we will get to later. Back to the matter at hand. Thomas Hobbes benefited greatly from his arrangement with the Cavendish family because he was given access to books and connections to other great intellectuals like philosophers and scientists. As stated in the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, connection with the wealthy family is part of what allowed him to think and write as he did. Resources and relations that he would not have had access to given his humble roots. Hobbes was first introduced to practical politics through the young William Cavendish, who was a member of the 1614 and 1621 parliaments. Hobbes followed his contributions to parliamentary debates. He also attended many meetings of the Virginia Company, where he formed connections with powerful men. The man was also quite the social butterfly. Through the Cavendish family and some contacts he made on his own, Hobbes has interacted with many famous intellectuals like Marie Mersenne, whom he met in Paris, the famous Galileo Galilei in Florence, according to Aubrey, Francis Bacon, who he served as a secretary. He even had various interactions with René Descartes in the 1640s that began when Hobbes commented on Descartes' Discourse in Optics. Their relationship is described as a curious mixture of respect and dismissal. In the same year, Hobbes also made a notable impact with his philosophical writings, namely through his works Elements of Law and De Cive. The Elements of Law, Natural and Politic, was written as a result of a conflict between the Parliament and King Charles I in the late 1630s over the extent of normal kingly powers, especially in regards to raising funds for armies. So, in 1640, Hobbes wrote a treatise to defend the king's viewpoint. Hobbes's arguments in his treatise were so effective that the royalist members of parliament used them in debates, and also, due to its adequacy, the treatise was passed on in manuscript form and was later on published, which Hobbes did not intend to. De Cive, on the other hand, was Hobbes's debut on political philosophy. De Cive, meaning concerning the citizen, is one of 3 parts of a larger publication, The Elements of Philosophy. The other 2 are De Corpore, meaning concerning the body, published in 1655, and De Homine, meaning concerning the man, published in 1658. In the late 1640s, Hobbes left England to spend the next decade in exile in Paris. During the time, tensions were high due to the Civil War, and Hobbes, through his treatise and employment with the Cavendish family, was associated with the royalist side, leading to his exile. He may have also feared punishment due to his political philosophy, which justified absolute sovereignty. In France, Hobbes continued to communicate with Mersenne and his circle. Right before he returned in 1651, Hobbes wrote his most famous work, the Leviathan, which was structured similarly to the Elements of Law. De Corpore and De Homine were published after his return to England. In 1668, he published a Latin edition of Leviathan with some significant changes and additions relating to controversial topics, such as his treatments of the Trinity and the nature of God. Thomas Hobbes died on the 4th of December 1679 at one of the homes of the Cavendish family. To conclude Thomas Hobbes' personal background, let's look at the major influences to his thinking and works. First is the major horrific event that we talked about earlier, which is the English Civil War. The English Civil War pitted the forces of the king against the parliament and led to thousands of deaths. Hobbes thought that the war was disastrous and not in any way beneficial. Many say that this event greatly influenced his subsequent thinking. His diagnosis and solution for the war led to the formulation of his most famous theories. Second is Hobbes' admiration for geometry and involvement in the emerging scientific method. His interest began due to his association with the Welbeck Cavendishes, who shared the same passion for science and mathematics. Hobbes also claimed to have pioneered in the optics field. He applied deductive science in presenting his ideas on human nature and politics, which can be observed in the structure of the Leviathan. Lastly, Hobbes actively argued against the religious authority and the scholastic philosophy from which it was established. He believed in the separation of religion and politics, claiming that theological disputes should be kept out of politics. Some sources say he was privately an atheist, but some deny these claims. To understand Thomas' conservatism, we must look at the situation in the 17th century. During this period, religious observance and followers were decreasing. With this is the increasing doubt about the theory of divine right of kings, which states that the power and authority of kings come from God and therefore should be obeyed by all. Across Western Europe, many intellectuals and political theorists like Hobbes began questioning the basis of kingly power and the obligation of subjects to obey their rulers. Some argued that the power lays within the subjects because they are the ones that allow the king to rule, a theory known as the social contract, which will not be discussed further in this video. Like his fellow intellectuals, Thomas Hobbes did not believe in the theory of divine right of kings. However, at the same time, he also feared the possible consequences of the social contract due to his hatred of violence, as stated earlier. This fascinating disposition is reflected in his works. In what way, you ask? We will learn more after the video. For now, thank you for listening.